और मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलवात। أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول. صلوات. The name of Allah, the most beneficent and the most merciful. It is said about this surah that the person who recites this surah is kept safe from his enemies and has difficulties and problems solved quickly. Recitation of this surah is also helpful in remaining safe from the evil tyrant rulers. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent and the most merciful. Have you not considered how your Lord dealt with the possessors of the elephant? Did he not cause their war to end in confusion and send down to prey upon them birds and flocks, casting against them stones of baked clay? So he rendered them like straw eaten up. Salvat. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. Before I invite the Sheikh to start his speech for tonight, a few reminders. First and foremost, we would like to remind the mothers in our community about our dedicated mother's room. This room has a live feed of the program, a microwave, and a nursing area. It has been set up so that mothers can have some privacy and the young ones can get accustomed to sitting and listening to the program in a lighter, less restrictive setting. With this, we hope to bring ease to our mothers in these coming nights and encourage them to make use of this facility. Our objective at CFK is to serve all of our guests adequately while being morally responsible by minimizing wastage. We thank you for doing your part in helping us to achieve this objective by pre-registering using the links present on our WhatsApp and email announcements. A few upcoming events. Tonight, April 7th, there will be a Sisters Lock-In at the DYG Lounge from the ages of 16 to 28. Please pre-register at dallasyouth.org/sisterslockin. Next, Saturday, April 15th, after Dua Iftitah at CFK, there will be a moon sighting workshop with Sheikh Amin called Moon Sighting Rules, Application, and Maps. Some points discussed in this workshop will be: number one, what is the cause of different announcements of Eid even from people who follow the same Maraja? Number two, what is the real difference between unity of horizon versus different horizons? Number three, when does sighting of the moon in a region necessitate its sighting in another? Number four, what do the different curves in a map mean for different cities? Please note that this event will not be live streamed nor will be recorded. On April 18th, there will be a Sisters Iftari at the DYG Lounge for ages 14 to 28. Please pre-register at dallasyouth.org/iftari. Before I request the Sheikh to begin his speech, I would like to request that we recite a Surah Fatiha for the marhumin of tonight's sponsors. In loving memory of all the marhumin, for the family of Arshad Asgar, Muhammad and Karen Rizwan, Shabir and Masuma Mumdani and Falaka Jani, for the marhumin of the family of Ejaz and Mehnaz Hassan and family, for the marhumin of Sayyid Jawad Haider Naqvi, Sayyid Maqsood Ali Shah, and all marhumin of both families, as well as for the families of brother Fawad and sister Uzman Naqvi, for the marhumin of Jagani, Hasumani, and the Rasmi families, and all marhumin of sisters Nasim Jagani and family, for brother Asif and sister Zina Patel and family, for Pyarali Patel and all of their marhumin, for the marhumin of Abid Mamdani and family, and for the marhumin of the Makraj family, of Brother Sadiq Makraj and family. At this time, I would like to request Sheikh Mahdi to ascend the member and to honor us with a speech tonight. And before that, I would ask the brothers and sisters to please move as close to the member as possible, as there will be a lot more people coming in with the loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Recite a salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الهمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت معدود ولا أجل ممدود أما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ويا قوم هذه ناقة الله لكم آية فذروها تأكل في أرض الله ولا تمسوها بسوء فيأخذكم عذاب قريب صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه. For the love of our beloved Prophet and his beloved progeny, a second loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajah. For the hastening in the return of our beloved 12th Imam, a third final loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajah. We were discussing the story of Saleh alayhi salam, this great prophet of God. And we reached this point of the story where Saleh kept going back to his people and asking them not to follow the elites amongst his tribe. He turned to his people in Surah Ash-Shu'ara and he said, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَتِيعُونَ Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be fearful of Him. وَلَا تُطِيعُوا أَمْرَ الْمُسْرِفِينَ Do not be followers of those elite who live extravagant lives and you just follow after them. Whatever they do, you act upon it. His people continued to reject the message of Saleh until he reached the age 120. Finally, when he reached this point and this age, he came to his people and he challenged them. And he put a challenge in front of them. He said, let us go to your lords and I will ask them for a miracle. And why don't you come to my Lord and ask him for a miracle and we will see who is victorious at the end of the day. His people were already tired of him. They said, Saleh, this is a wonderful idea. Sa'imna wa sa'imta, you're tired, we're tired, we're tired of you, you're tired of us. Let's just do this at the end of the day. And we'll call our lords, you'll call your Lord. Let's see who responds. So the narration says he went and he called for the lords of his people and the idols of his people, 70 of them, to speak back to him. And of course it was complete silence. And Saleh turned to them and he said, well, now is your turn to ask. They asked, but what a question did they ask, and what a miracle did they ask for? They said, we want a miracle, but this miracle we want is a very specific miracle. We can't ask for you to give us this miracle here. We have to go towards this mountain that is close to us. Over there, you have to give us this miracle. They went to the mountain. They said, yes, Saleh, give us a camel that is number 1, a female. That is number 2, red. That number 3, its skin is closer to pink. That number 4 is 10 months pregnant. That is this shape and that is this size. Saleh said, this is a difficult task, but my Lord can make it happen. He offered 2 rakat of salat, and behold, the camel started to make its way from the midst of this mountain as the mountain was shaking and was trembling. And Saleh turned to his people and he said, is there anything else that you want to ask my Lord for? They said, no, this is the only miracle that we wanted. Of course, they couldn't think of anything else to ask for. They turned to Saleh. They said, Saleh, let's go back to our tribe. Let's tell people of the miracle that you have brought to us. And the narration says from Tafsir al-Qummi that before they could make their way back to their village, out of the 70 elite that were with him, 64 had already rejected his message. And by the time they came back to the village and people asked them what had happened, he said, yes, Saleh took us, he did some magic to us, and here we are. And that is why we saw this camel. It was not really a miracle. He was nothing but a magician. When the camel of Saleh came, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept this camel amongst the people. And this is where we ended our discussion in our last lecture. Tonight, inshallah, we'll continue with this story by posing the following questions. Number 1, why was the camel of Saleh such a special camel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attributes the camel to himself? It says, Naqat Allah. This is the camel of Allah. Number 2, how did the Ahlul Bayt reference the idea of this camel getting slaughtered and getting hamstrung, and the similarities they found between the camel and what happened to it, and the difficulties that the Ahlul Bayt were put through by the people after the Prophet's life came to an end? Number 3, when the people of Saleh killed the camel of Saleh, did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately send his punishment upon them? Or even after that, did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them time to come back to the right path? Number 4, what sign did Saleh speak of to his people that they would see in the days following up and leading up to the final punishment of God coming? And number 5, and finally, what punishment was sent down on the people of Saleh, on the Qawm of Thamud? And what lesson can we learn about the punishment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selects for each tribe and each people who disobey Him? Tonight, inshallah, we'll delve into these 5 questions with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We'll continue with our story from this portion. The people of Saleh were given this miracle. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them that this miracle would remain amongst them, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them one thing else. He said, every day that this camel is going to be with you, one day this camel will eat and drink from the water of your town. And one day you will have permission to drink from the wells and the water of your town. But you're not allowed to go over. The day that's allocated to you, you have to stick to that. The day that's allocated to the camel, have to stick to that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the deal even better, because the narration says that Saleh told them, he said, the days that you can't eat from the well, can't drink from the well, this camel will give you from its milk. And no one from your people will be left behind. Everyone will benefit from the milk of this camel. At the end of the day, this camel was a miracle in and of itself. And hence the milk that it produced was also a miracle in and of itself. This was the deal Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in front of them. Seems like a simple thing. The only thing that Saleh asked for was leave it alone. You have your day of drinking. The camel has its day of drinking. The day you're not drinking, there's milk for you. Seems like a very simple thing that Saleh was asking for at this point. Yes? But even this, the arrogance of the human being and the greed that he has will at the end of the day push him to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even when God has given him a whole civilization like the people of Thamud had. So this was the deal that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in front of them. Salih said, هَذِهِ نَاقَةُ اللَّهِ, this is the camel of Allah. Just leave it alone. وَلَا تَمَسُّهَا بِسُوءٍ. Leave it alone, because if you were to go after the camel, فَيَأْخُذَكُمْ عَذَابٌ قَرِيبٌ, God's punishment would come immediately your way. Just don't touch this camel. And this camel was very special for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a number of reasons. First of all, it was a clear sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Came out of this mountain, they all saw it with their own eyes, number one. Number two, it continued to live amongst them. Every day, they saw this miracle. Many miracles of the prophets, it happened in a moment. If you weren't there in that moment, you were coming into life 50, 60 years later, you didn't see this miracle. But with the camel of Saleh, every day they were seeing this. Number three was that the calf of this camel was another miracle. The baby calf of this camel was with the mother. It's also another sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And number four was that the camel wasn't harming anybody. So the sign was a sign that didn't even create problems for them in their lives. So now if you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a sign like this, then God's punishment is going to come immediately. So this was the deal that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in front of them. The people of Saleh started slowly over time, as time went on. They said, you know what, we can't take this camel anymore. We don't like this idea, one day we drink, one day the camel drinks, so on and so forth. We also don't like the idea that Saleh's miracle walks in front of everybody like this. Every day he walks around, she walks around. It's a reminder that what Saleh is saying is true. We don't want this. We have to get rid of it. This discussion started amongst them. And in order to get rid of this camel, they said, well, we need someone, one person, to come forward and initiate this. We need one person who's going to come and kill the camel of Saleh. So they went amongst people. They said, whoever does this will have a reward with us. And the narration mentions certain, specific attributes of the person that they found who was willing to come and do this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to this person as ashqaha, the most wretched of the people of Thamud. So in the narrations we read that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet, and the Prophet told Ali ibn Abi Talib, that the most wretched of the earlier tribes was the person who killed the camel of Saleh. And the most wretched of the later people is the one who will kill you, Ya Ali. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought this person and the killer of Ali together. These are amongst the most wretched people who've ever lived. So they chose this one person. This one person was supposed to be in charge of killing the camel of Saleh. As this camel used to go to the well and drink and come back, this one person was waiting for the camel to come back to cut the hamstrings of the camel and to have it bleed out and have it die. And this moment, there's a big lesson in it for you and I. Because the Quran says there was one person who killed the camel of Saleh. But then the Quran also says we held everyone accountable for killing the camel of Saleh. If one person killed the camel of Saleh, why are all these other people being held accountable? Why is God saying, oh, the people of Thamud were responsible? Because sometimes one person can lead hundreds or thousands into hellfire. This one person, he initiates it. He starts things. The other people, instead of saying, no, we don't agree with this, they say, yeah, we're okay with it. They might even come and take part in it as well. One person, he can get hundreds or thousands into hellfire. And interestingly, you and I typically will not be that one person. That's not who we are. But many times we are part of that hundreds or thousands who might just follow along. And the day of judgment is the scene where these leaders, that one person, and the other 99 who followed, they are constantly fighting with each other. They're constantly arguing with each other. So many verses of the Quran talk about that moment where the leader comes and then the people who followed him comes. And they're going at it with each other because they're saying, you know what? It's your fault. Because of you, hundreds ended up here. Thousands ended up here. And you know what the leader has to say? He says, no, it's not because of me. They all had their own free will. Don't put it on me. So the Quran says, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ اسْتَكْبَرُوا لِلَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا. The people who are more powerful to those who are following them, they used to say, Ya Allah, if these guys ended up in hellfire, it's their own fault, huh? It's not on us. It's not our fault. And the people who are followers, God forbid can be you and I, they say, no, Ya Allah, He used to come to us day and night. He used to call us to this path. He used to encourage us to do this. He used to do all of this kind of stuff. And the leader says, no, Ya Allah, he had free will of his own. He decided on his own. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala respond to the arguing that's happening on the Day of Judgment? قَالَ لَا تَخْتَصِمُوا لَدَيَّ. Enough with this arguing. وَقَدْ قَدَّمْتُ إِلَيْكُمْ بِالْوَعِيدِ. I already told you if you go on the wrong path, what's going to happen to you. This person started it, this one said it, all of it. This stuff doesn't fly in Qiyamah. And the verses of the Quran say, the leader says, Ya Allah, it's their own fault. The followers say, oh Allah, he needs to be punished twice. Because he went the wrong path himself, and then he misguided other people too. Yes? And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to the followers? He says, قَالَ لِكُلٍّ ضِعْفٌ. He says, both of you will have double punishment. Both of you, double punishment. That doesn't make sense. The leader is supposed to be punished twice as much, yes? But why? Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say double the punishment? Because the leader, it's clear, he went the wrong path and he misguided others, double the punishment, yes? The followers, they went the wrong path themselves. They followed this person. It gave him more strength, more ability, more wealth, more followers to then misguide other people. Maybe their punishment isn't exactly the same, but both of them are held accountable because they had two effects. Even the followers, they followed this person into the wrong path. Because of their presence, the leader used their presence to bring other people along as well. You were the masses that this leader would point to, say, look at all these people. So people follow me. Maybe they're not the same at the end of the day on the Day of Judgment, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at everything if you went down the wrong path. And never on the Day of Judgment does this excuse fly, oh Allah, he did this, he started it. This doesn't work there. If I'm a follower, I have my own punishment to deal with. I have my own issues to deal with. So they chose one person. The Quran says, إِذَا انْبَعَثَ أَشْقَاهَا. When they chose the most wretched amongst them. But then the Quran says, كَذَّبَتْ ثَمُودُ بِتَقْوَاهَا. But we held all of Thamud responsible for this. Why? Because they all came to take part in it later. Yes, one person initiated it, but later on, everyone came to take part in it. The camel was on its way back from the well. At nighttime, he waited. On the way back, he hamstrung the camel. The narration says the first time, the camel didn't fall. He hit the camel again and again until the camel finally fell on the ground. When the camel fell on the ground and this one person had already initiated this process, then the narration says everyone from the tribe came and they killed this camel. The narration says the baby calf started to run towards the mountains, gave out 3 cries to the skies. And the narrations tell us even the baby calf later on they found and they killed the baby calf as well. This is pure evil, yes? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Ahlul Bayt, they referenced the camel of Salih in their own lives as well. So the narration says when Lady Fatima was going through the difficulty that she went through after the Prophet left this world, she used to raise her hand and say, oh Allah, my cousin Ali, my husband Ali, Salih is not more honorable than him in your eyes. What is he saying? He's saying if you sent punishment for Salih, well then my cousin, my husband, is a higher status than Salih. And I, Fatima says, my status is not less than the camel of Saleh. And my child is not worth less than the baby calf of the camel of Saleh. What is she saying? Saying these people are worthy of punishment. And the narrations say Ali ibn Abi Talib is like the camel of Saleh, because the camel of Saleh was a clear sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every day he would walk amongst people, and Ali is like this as well. Every day people see him, he is a reminder for people. And the narration says the camel of Saleh is like Ali ibn Abi Talib, because the same way they found the baby calf and they killed him, they will kill the son of Ali as well. And the narration says the Ahlul Bayt are like the camel of Saleh. The same way Saleh told his people, leave the camel alone, don't bother it. The Prophet also said to his people, after me, leave my family alone, take care of them, don't bother them. And this is what they did. So the Ahlul Bayt constantly referenced the instance of the camel of Saleh. When this finally came to an end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Saleh, Saleh, your people have done the final thing that they were supposed to do. They killed the camel that was a blessing for them. Saleh, go and speak to your people. Tell your people that now they have to await the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Accept the patience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is something you and I don't even understand. Because this was a miracle they had asked for themselves. So the idea is the punishment should come down immediately, you know? Except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Saleh, go and tell them my punishment is going to come. But they have 3 days. If they don't repent in these 3 days, then my punishment is going to come. Time and time and time and time again. Never in none of these stories of these prophets is there a people who disobey God and God sends the punishment immediately. This never happens. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is keep looking for an opportunity. Give them time. 3 more days they have this opportunity to repent. If they don't repent, then the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to come. Saleh came to his people, and the Quran narrates this portion. He said, my people, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told me. You have killed a camel that had nothing to do with you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you 3 days before his punishment comes. And what was the response of his people? His people said, Ya Saleh, i'tina bima ta'iduna. What do you mean 3 days? Just tell him to send the punishment already. We don't want it. We're done. It's like we're all the way at the bottom. It's a done deal. And Saleh said something, there's a lesson in this for you and I. Saleh said something very beautiful. He said, وَيَا قَوْمِ, my people, لِمَ تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ بِالسَّيِّئَةِ قَبْلَ الْحَسَنَةِ. Why do you keep going and looking for the wrath of God instead of his blessings? Ya Saleh, how are we supposed to look for his blessings? This is for you and I. How are we supposed to look for his blessings? He said, لَوْلَا تَسْتَغْفِرُونَ اللَّهِ. Why don't you take the easy route? The easy route. Just come and repent. Just set aside that arrogance. لَوْلَا تَسْتَغْفِرُونَ اللَّهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. Why don't you just come and say, oh Allah, I was wrong. How difficult is this? People say, oh Ya Allah, why did you put me in this world? It's so difficult. Maybe I go to hellfire. Maybe I don't end up in heaven. Listen, how difficult is it for you to say I'm sorry? If it's that difficult for you to say I'm sorry, then yeah, you have issues. That's all Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking for. He didn't ask for you to be perfect. He said, when you do wrong, come back to me. Don't publicize it. Don't act like you're okay with this wrong that is happening. Don't take this sin and put it out there so that other people feel open to committing the same sin. You committed a sin. It's between you and I. You repent from it. How difficult is that? He said, وَيَا قَوْمِ لِمَ تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ بِالسَّيِّئَةِ قَبْلَ الْحَسَنَةِ. Why you want to make your life difficult? When God's blessings, you can gain it. How, Salih? لَوْلَا تَسْتَغْفِرُونَ اللَّهِ. Why don't you just repent? Isn't that the easier way to go about it? They didn't listen to Salih. Recite the salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. They said, Salih, you know what it is? قَالُوا طَيَّرْنَا بِكَ وَبِمَنْ مَعِكَ. They said, Salih, since you came, we ended up with bad luck. Bad things happen to us. Now you're telling us punishment is coming. Saleh said, قَالَ طَائِرُكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. He said, there's no such thing as bad luck. He said, the luck you have is in the hands of Allah. Your luck is in the hands of Allah. You and I go through life, we say, oh, this happened, it's bad luck. There's no luck. We don't believe in luck in Islam. قَالَ طَائِرُكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. He said, your quote-unquote luck is in the hands of Allah. Meaning what? Meaning you go against Him. This is the result. بَلْ أَنْتُمْ قَوْمٌ تُفْتَنُونَ. You're being tested. You don't realize it. You keep failing these tests. And then you say, oh, why did this happen in my life? The first thing you're supposed to look for when something goes wrong in your life, number one, is not nazar. It's not the jealousy of this person. It's not, oh, maybe this person is trying to do this to ruin my life and that person is trying. The first thing you have to look for is yourself. Am I disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Am I committing sins on the side? So every one of these sins has consequences. Every one of them has consequences. The answer to that sometimes might be yes, it might be no. I'm not saying it's always the case. Sometimes it's not that. But that's the first thing you're supposed to look for. First thing you're supposed to look for. The people of Saleh said, Saleh, since you've come, we've had bad luck. And Saleh said, قَالَ طَائِرُكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. He said, you're dealing with God. What do you mean bad luck? بَلْ أَنْتُمْ قَوْمٌ تُفْتَنُونَ. You're being tested. You're failing these tests. And then you say, why did these bad things happen in my life? Well, did you take a moment to look at your own life? They said, Saleh, enough talking. We're just going to wait for the punishment. So Saleh said, that is fine. Saleh came to his people. He said, you have 3 days to repent. Except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set a sign for you, even during these 3 days, so that you know what He is saying is true, so that maybe you'll come back to the right path. A sign even during these 3 days. He said, the first day that you wake up, your faces will turn yellow. You will see each other and you don't look the same. The second day you wake up, your faces will look red. The third day you wake up, muswadda. It will be dark. This is the sign that God's punishment is coming. The narration says, they said, Saleh, we don't care. Let the punishment come. They went to sleep the first day. They woke up. All of a sudden, the faces are yellow. The narration says, Masha ba'duhum ila ba'din. They went to each other's houses. They said, this is what Saleh was talking about. And the elite said, yeah, that's fine. Let his punishment come. Second day they woke up, faces are red. They went to each other. They said, this is what he was talking about. And the elite said, yeah, but we don't care. We're going to stick to what we've always been doing. We've always been doing this. We're always going to do this. Third day, the faces turned dark. Came to each other. They said, this punishment is coming. And the elite said, so be it. We don't believe in what he says anyways. Until the narration says midnight came. After the 3 days expired, midnight came, and the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finally came in those moments. Where Jibreel came with the angels, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hit this people with 3 different punishments in one. So the verses of the Quran says, sometimes it says there was a sayha, a loud sound, a blast that took their lives. And then the Quran adds there was also a rajfa, there was also an earthquake. And the Quran adds there was also lightning. All of this at the same time. And the Quran says, كَأَن لَمْ يَغْنَوْا فِيهَا. If you saw the people of Thamud and the way we removed them from this world, you would have assumed they never even lived here. We completely wiped them out. You and I look at that and we say, God is cruel. How could he do it? This is the world purifying itself. This is how this world works. You're not in harmony with the rest of the world. You want to move your own direction, the world will try to get you, yes, into the right path. Slowly. At the beginning, it's very small things, yes? You keep continuing down this road on and on and on and on. Eventually, this world will purify itself of you and I. كَأَن لَمْ يَغْنَوْا فِيهَا. as if they never even lived here. This is why when the Prophet was walking by the houses of Thamud with his own people, he had to tell them this is where Thamud used to live. These guys, they didn't see a civilization there. They saw ruins there. What did they see? They saw empty houses, ruins. The Prophet told them this is where Thamud used to live. The Quran says, كَأَن لَمْ يَغْنَوْا فِيهَا. It's as if they did not even exist. And the Quran says, فَتِلْكَ بُيُوتُهُمْ خَاوِيَةً. And these were their empty houses. بِمَا ظَلَمُوا. Because of what they chose themselves. We didn't do this to them. They chose the wrong path, and this is the natural result of it. فَتِلْكَ بُيُوتُهُمْ خَاوِيَةً. These are empty houses. بِمَا ظَلَمُوا. Because they decided to go against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And out of these punishments that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent on all of these different tribes, you and I might assume, how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose what punishment comes? You think we're arbitrary. We think it's just by choice, yes? One of them, he drowns like the people of Fir'aun. And one of them, there are stones and rocks that hit them, yes, in the head. And one of them, there is a sayha, there is a loud blast. And the Quran says, no, every single one of these, it depends on the type of sin they were committing. فَكُلًّا أَخَذْنَا بِذَنْبِهِ. Every one of them, we held them accountable with a punishment that was suitable to the sin that they were committing. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ أَخَذَتْهُ الصَّيْحَةُ فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ أَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِ حَاصِبًا. Some of them, we sent stones and rocks that hit them from the skies. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ أَخَذَتْهُ الصَّيْحَةُ. And some of them, a loud blast. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ خَسَفْنَا بِهِ الْأَرْضِ. And some of them, the earth swallowed them. Like Qarun tells us, the Quran tells us that Qarun was swallowed by the earth. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ أَغْرَقْنَا. And some of them, they drowned like the people of Nuh, like the son of Nuh, like the people of the Pharaoh. What is the Quran trying to say? The Quran is trying to say this sin that you commit and the punishment. It's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gets emotional, na'udhu billah, He gets angry with you and He says, you did this, now I'm going to do this. This deed, this sin of yours has a natural consequence. It's tied to it. This sin, it comes with this punishment. So if the people of Fir'aun commit this sin, only this punishment can come for them. And if the people of Saleh can commit this sin, only this punishment can come for them. What does this mean? This means there's a natural correlation between the sin and the consequence. And all Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does on the day of judgment is that He lifts the veils and He shows you and I the natural consequences of our deeds. And we read these stories of the Quran and it brings fear into our hearts. Punishment, this and that. Let me tell you something. If it brings you punishment into your heart and for a moment you say, oh Allah, I don't want to end up like that. Well, great, wonderful. All it takes is tawbah. All it takes is istighfar. Was Saleh asking his people for too much? He said, لَوْلَا تَسْتَغْفِرُونَ اللَّهِ. Just set aside your arrogance and come back to the right path. That's all. And you can wipe out these consequences easily. The scholars tell us, they say every sin has a consequence. And it's tied to you who did that sin, who committed that sin. The moment you do tawbah, the moment you do istighfar, it's like you're disowning that sin. That deed, that action, no longer tied to you. Goes out into the world. You show up on the day of judgment, that deed has nothing to do with you. All of these punishments that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about the people of Thamud and Saleh and all these other tribes, all it would take from them was an istighfar. But they decided not to do so. And those who come back to the right path, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always distinguishes between them. And He always knows who's on the wrong path, who is on the right path. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends His punishment, never in these stories do you find a person who was on the right path being negatively impacted by the punishment that He sent on the wrongdoing people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala separates these from each other, one by one. Because every servant of His is His own servant. So the Quran says, when our punishment came, نَجَّيْنَا صَالِحًا وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ. Every single person who was on the right path, he was never negatively impacted by the punishment that we sent on the people of Thamud. We saved him and we saved his people. You know where you see this in the most beautiful way? You see this in the people, in the story of Lut. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Ibrahim, we're going to go and punishment is going to be sent on the people of Lut. Ibrahim turned to the angels. He said, wait, 1 second. وَإِنَّ فِيهَا لُوطًا. In that city, you're going to go send this punishment. Lut is in that city. You guys careful. You guys know what you're doing. And the angels responded to him on behalf of God. The angels told him, نَحْنُ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنْ فِيهَا. We know better than you who's in that city. We know better who's on the right path, who's on the wrong path. We know better than you. Every intention I make, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching me. You and I sit in a crowd of 1 million, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at that crowd of 1 million. He sees some of his greatest servants, he sees some of his worst servants in that same crowd. To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his ultimate knowledge, he differentiates between all of his servants. So when the punishment was sent on the people of Saleh, if this person was a person who simply repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, I'm not happy with what my people are doing, then the Quran says, Najjayna, we saved that person. Anyone who didn't get saved, he had the type of arrogance that he wouldn't even raise his hands to ask for forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is how the story of the people of Saleh and the Qawm of Thamud came to an end. Tomorrow, inshallah, we'll delve into the story of Yunus, who out of all of these tribes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of in the Quran, they might be the only one who came back to the right path. And in the final moments, saved themselves from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A beautiful story that we'll delve into tomorrow night, inshallah. With that, we'll bring tonight's talk to an end. Let us take a moment to recite Surah Al-Fatiha. For all of your marhumin and marhumat, especially the marhumin and marhumat of the sponsors of tonight's program, with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما الله أكبر أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله صلى على محمد أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح، حي على خير العمل، حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله، لا إله إلا الله. الله
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. صلى الله عليه وسلم. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم، وأن عليا حجة الله صلى الله وسلامه عليه. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح، حي على خير العمل، حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد، الله الصمد، لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده، سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده، سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته وارفع درجته بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله. تسبيح فاطمة الزهراء سلام الله عليها.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا علي يا عظيم يا غفور يا رحيم أنت الرب العظيم الذي ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. وهذا شهر عظمته وكرمته وشرفته وفضلته على الشهور. وهو الشهر الذي فرضت صيامه عليه. وهو شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. وجعلت فيه ليلة القدر وجعلتها خيرا من 1000 شهر. فيا ذا المن ولا يمن عليك من علي بفكاك رقبتي من النار فيما تمن علي وأدخلني الجنة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وأن عليا حجة الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم أدخل على أهل القبور السرور، اللهم أغن كل فقير، اللهم أشبع كل جائع، اللهم اكس كل عريان، اللهم اقض دين كل مدين، اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل أسير، اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين، اللهم اشف كل مريض، اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك، اللهم اقض عنا الدين وأغننا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد. Inshallah ziyarah after the dua.
Brothers and sisters, if you can please help us with cleaning up, we'll be starting Dua Iftitah shortly. Brothers and sisters, if we can please settle down, we'll be starting Dua Iftitah shortly.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك وأنت مسدد للصواب بمنك. أيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة، وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنقمة، وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة. اللهم أذنت لي في دعائك ومسألتك، فأسمع يا سميع مدحتي، وأجب يا رحيم دعوتي، وأقل يا غفور عثرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وعثرة قد أقلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك، ولم يكن له ولي من الذل، وكبره تكبيرا. اللهم صل على محمد. الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها، على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه، ولا منازع له في أمره. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه، ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله الفاشي في الخلق أمره، وحمده الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يديه، الذي لا تنقص خزائنه، ولا تزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما. إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير، مع حاجة بي إليه عظيمة وغناك عنه قديم، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي، وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي، وسمحك عن ظلمي، وسترك عن قبيح عملي، وحلمك عن كثير جرمي، عندما كان من خطاي وعمدي، أدعمني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك، وأريتني من قدرتك، وعرفتني من إجابتك. فصرت أدعوك آمنا وأسألك مستأنسا لا خائفا ولا وجلا مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك فإن أبضى عني عتبت بجهلي عليك ولعل الذي أبدى عني وهو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور فلم أر مولا كريما أصبر على عبد لئيم منك علي يا رب إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك وتتحبب إلي فأتبغض إليك وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك كأن لي تطول عليك فلم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة لي والإحسان إلي والتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك فارحم عبدك الجاهل وجد عليه بفضل إحسانك إنك جواد كريم الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح فالق الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبه وهو قادر على ما يريد الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق فالق الإصباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادله ولا شبيه يشاكله ولا ظهير يعاضده قهر بعزة الأعزة وتواضع لعظمته العظمى فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أنادي ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصيه ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازي فكم من موهبة هنيئة قد أعطاني وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني وبهجة مونقة قد أراني وأثني عليه حامدا وأذكره مسبحا الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه ولا يغلق بابه ولا يرد سائله ولا يخيب آمله الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين ويرفع المستضعفين ويدع المستكبرين يهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين والحمد لله قاسم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدرك الهاربين نكال الظالمين صريخ المستصرخين موضع حاجات الطالبين معتبد المؤمنين الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها وترجف الأرض وعمارها وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي يا لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق، ويرزق ولا يرزق، ويطعم ولا يطعم، ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى، وهو حي لا يموت، بيده الخير، وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك، أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم وصل على أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين، عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على صديقة الطاهرة فاطمة سيدة النساء العالمين، وصل على سبتي الرحمة وإمام الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على الأئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي، وحججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم وصل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمن والعدل المنتظر، وحفته بملائكة المقربين، وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعله الداعي إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك، استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبله، مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته له، أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وأعزز به، وانصره وانتصر به، وانصره نصرا عزيزا، وافتح له فتحا يسيرا، واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله، وتذل بها النفاق وأهله، وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك، وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملناه، وما قصرنا عنه فبلغنا. اللهم المم به شعثنا، واشعب به سدعنا، وارتق به فتقنا، وكثر به قلتنا، وأعزز به ذلتنا، وأغن به عائلنا، وأغض به عن مغرمنا، واجبر به فقرنا وسد به خلتنا ويسر به عسرنا وبيض به وجوهنا وفك به يسرنا وأنجح به طلبتنا وأنجز به مواعيدنا واستجب به دعوتنا وأعتنا به سؤلنا وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا وأعتنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المعطين. اشف به صدورنا وأذهب به غيظ قلوبنا واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله وغيبة ولينا وكثرة عدونا وقلة عددنا وشدة الفتن بنا وتظاهر الزمان علينا. فصل على محمد وآله وعنا على ذلك فتح منك تعجله وبذر تكشفه ونصر تعزه وسلطان حق تظهره ورحمة منك تجللناها وعافية منك تلبسناها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسنتم.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا إمام الحسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا إمام الحسين الشهيد بكربلاء. السلام عليك يا إمام علي زين العابدين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا إمام صاحب العصر والزمان. الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. هذا عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.